this was easily the most confusing episode of this entire show. There's so much info, so many little tidbits that by themselves I'm pretty sure would have made for a pretty good cliffhanger, for an individual episode. But there's just so much. It's like, can we please slow down? Like, there's so much stuff. And there's no point in reading the manga now, because the season's about to end. So it's too late for that. It's really, really jumbled, so I'll try my best to make sense out of this entire thing. So, first and foremost, it's pretty much confirmed that there's some character in the show that has the ability to turn people into titans. That's just straight up. We know that from two scenes in this episode. The first one is the one with Connie's mom. Connie's mom, I'm pretty sure, got turned into a titan because we saw the picture. She looks almost identical. And then the second scene that confirms this is during Ymir's flashback when we see those kids lined up, being thrown over the wall. You see the flash of light there, and it's heavily implied that that's what they're doing, that they're turning people into titans as some form of punishment. We're not really sure punishment for what, but they're actually being cursed by being turned into titans and just, letting them roam off and just... It's like a curse. Like Ymir was saying that she had been running around for 60 years. What the hell? By the way, this is my best impression of Krista. Are you ready? Ymir! Ymir! Also, this episode makes it rather obvious that there's two sides to this conflict. We kind of already knew that, but I think what this episode definitely confirms is that the conflict is almost like human-made. It seems to me like there's two sides, and both sides are at war. Versus before in season 1, it was just humanity versus the Titans. No, now it's humans versus humans, because you see that there's this religious cult, the one that Ymir was taken to. And apparently, she's told, you have to say that, you have the blood of the king, and people believe that once you have that, you become immortal, and people get immortality that way. So it's kind of like this religious sect that kind of brainwashes you into thinking that, or they may be immortal, I don't know. The only thing I can infer for sure is that there's definitely two sides, and one of the sides seems to be sort of gravitating towards, being involved with that religious sect, with the religious fanatics, the keepers of the wall, the priests and all those people. That's the feeling that I get. And then the other side, I'm pretty sure involved the people that were throwing these kids off of the wall, turning them into titans. And after Ymir gets found out, there's a very brief scene of her and some other people walking down the street, and people are throwing stuff at them. So again, it's definitely I definitely think it's a human-made conflict. In fact, the titans in this episode kind of made me feel are they created as instruments of warfare? Because that's basically what I got from when they were throwing them out of the wall. And just, to me, it kind of felt like they were just saying, yeah, we're going to curse you to be titans. Go out there and eat people. Go out there and eat people. Take care of our enemy for us. That's the feeling that I got. There's something really weird going on, because we see Ymir arrived at the town where Reiner, Bertholdt, and Annie are, and we know all those characters are titan shifters. And then Bertholdt asks Ymir, do you remember that you ate our friend? And Ymir just says, no, I don't remember that. So I don't know. Well, first of all, we don't know if all the titans were human at one point. We just don't know that. We can assume, but I don't think so. But Ymir doesn't remember what she did during those 60 years. That's really strange. And also, not only that, but there's a line in this episode where somebody says, yeah, it doesn't seem like Eren remembers any of that either. And I'm like, wait, hold on a minute here. Did you just imply that at some point Eren was running around outside the wall just eating people as well? No, right? Because Eren was already within Wall Maria when he was a little kid. He grew up there, right? So what doesn't he remember? It's just so strange, man. It is really... You can tell there are some very messed up things going on. Also, Ymir didn't age during those 60 years. At one point, she just kind of falls asleep, and then the earth begins to cover her. And by the way, that scene of her being covered by earth and then, rising up reminded me of that scene. There's a shot in the ending of this wasteland, and then you see kind of the Titans come up from the ground. That's what I was reminded of. It may have some connection to that, but the most important, the point that I was trying to make is that she didn't age during those 60 years. So does that mean that Reiner and Bertholdt weren't as young as we thought they were when they busted through the wall? I mean, literally, again, Ymir wakes up in some desert and she feels liberated and all this stuff. She's there naked, all right? And hey, I like that. But it was just so weird. It's what? Why all of a sudden did you just turn back into a human? Is it because you ate a human? I don't know. It's so weird. Oh man, because she wakes up in the desert naked. Very, very nice, very nice. But she wakes up in the desert, all right? And when she ate Reiner's friend, she wasn't in the desert. I did not expect her to wake up naked in the desert. Also, apparently the reason for why Eren is so important for Reiner, Bertholdt, and Annie and why they wanted to get their hands on him is because they think he's some type of a coordinate. Coordinate for what? For what? What's he a coordinate to? So that was their mission all along, right? That was their goal. To pretend to be soldiers, to infiltrate the wall, to pretend to be soldiers, to find the coordinate. Now they think it's Eren. But the thing is, they're not even sure if it's Eren. They're like, if Eren turns out not to be the coordinate, we're still not done here. So it's just a possibility. So Eren and Krista seem to be the most valuable pieces in the entire chessboard at this point. And I guess that kind of explains like Reiner and Bertholdt's urgency. Like when you look at their faces, right? They're just like, anxious as hell. They're like, we got to do this. We got to get out of here. Like before the scouts get here, we don't want trouble. We got to get this mission done. I mean, this mission of theirs has gone on for what, like 3 years? Also, something that we learned in this episode is that Bertholdt actually had a crush on Annie. Man, this episode is just filled with fun facts. You know what I find truly amazing about this whole thing, okay? First of all, look at Reiner's face in that picture that I just showed you. And second of all, Reiner was on the verge of having a mental breakdown last week. And now suddenly he's giving out dating advice. Reiner, for a guy who's actually responsible for the massacre of a lot of people, you can be pretty funny at times. Also, quick shout out to Eren for punching him with his elbows. I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, this shot right here looks really good. I really liked how this episode explored in more depth Ymir's feelings towards Krista. Because before it was just kind of, it's the lesbian couple. But I think this episode kind of gave us a little bit more depth because we find out that one of the reasons why Ymir is infatuated with Krista, I think she's infatuated with her, is because there's a huge similarity between the two in the sense that they both lie to each other about who they really are, all right? And Ymir has this problem because she was a kid and she was kind of thrown into the scenario where she had to pretend to be somebody that she wasn't, and Krista has to lie, and negate her own identity, her royal blood and stuff. So I like that aspect. Also, there's a line that was very weird because Ymir says, "Oh, guys, I don't trust you." Like all of a sudden she's like, I want to see Krista. I don't really trust you. Let me handle this. So she turns into a Titan. But before that, she says something like, if I go with you, what's going to happen to me? Like, your warriors are going to end up eating me or something like that. I'm like, okay, wow. So she knows where they're going, right? Or at least I'm guessing she knows something about the place that they're going to. And also, I remember last week, didn't Reiner say something like, Ymir, we can still be allies. And then he said something like, but we can't guarantee your protection. What was that about? So are they going back to the place or a place that is under the rule of the people who threw Ymir off of the wall and turned her into a Titan or something like that? Anyway, the scouts arrive at the forest and Ymir, kind of like a monkey, she moves through the trees and she gets there and she's just waiting around. Waiting around there quietly, waiting for her Krista to show up. She doesn't answer any questions. She sees Krista, or rather, she hears the Yamida. She swallows her boo, and she's off. And then Reiner turns into the Armored Titan, and there's a clearing outside of the forest, so they are now officially outside of the forest, and everybody's chasing them with horses and stuff. And there was a really weird shot of Hannes, not just a close-up, but the dialogue itself, when he says, Eren, I'm willing to trade in my life to get you back. So that's either a very, very big tease that doesn't lead anywhere, or it's just straight up foreshadowing. So that's pretty much how the episode ends. Again, it was a very, very info-heavy episode of Attack on Titan, and it was confusing, and I don't think it was... Okay, it wasn't that confusing. I think the issue that I have with it is that it gave us very, very, very little time to adjust to all the info. I think that if this information had been spread out in a different way, maybe by giving us more time to breathe, I think it would have been less daunting to absorb. That being said, though, I think it's still a pretty good episode. I think I'm just going to have to rewatch it. I mean, there's just a lot here. But I'm pretty sure, I have a strong hunch that a lot of the questions that this episode raised will probably be answered by the season finale. So, yeah, can't wait to see what happens. We're getting close to the ending of the season. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Comment down below what were your thoughts about this episode or about the stuff I said. Thank you guys. Take care. Bye.
Ymir!